and there are the large pink nearly in the center is the moonscape, and below that is the rocket, Saturn V rocket. And these are images that are used for Al Worden's next book.
Right. That's very kind.
Oh, yeah.
And we all need some kind.
Yes.
That's right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Al was a pretty amazing guy. It's pretty bad when we keep losing these people.
They lived a long life, and I'm pretty sure they have told us many times they expected probably to die a long time ago. So they know that they've used up all their 9 lives and are very grateful of having fun, and a lot of us listening to their stories again and again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, Shekhar, do you want to wait or you want to start?
What do you decide? I'll let you decide.
Yeah.
You're in charge.
They probably woke up a little bit late, but it's 10, maybe 1 minute. Let's wait for 1 minute, and Shekhar, you can start.
Okay. Thank you, Ken.
Okay.
I think I'll just describe about AIAA before the most important talks come on board. AIAA Los Angeles section is a home to one of the largest number of aerospace companies in the world, with a highly dense population of aerospace professionals. At AIAA, our purpose is to ignite, celebrate aerospace ingenuity and collaboration and its importance to our way of life. Our promise is to be your vital, lifelong link to the aerospace community and the champion for its achievement. We have large corporations in this area. We have Boeing, SpaceX, Northrop Grumman, Virgin Galactic, JPL, Aerojet Rocketdyne, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Aerospace Corporation, Scaled Composite, Booz Allen, Crane Aerospace, Honeywell, L3, LA Robotics, Millennium, Moog, Parker, Edwards Air Force Base, UTC, which is now called Raytheon, Vandenberg Air Force Base, Teledyne, and other companies. The section is a community of more than 10,000 aerospace professionals, their family members, and friends. We are one of the largest and highly dense aerospace professionals in the whole world. We are in touch with them by email, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Dr. Ken Louie, who's organizing this event, has been worked hard to make this event possible, and I really appreciate all the speakers and panelists to come down and help our section members and their children. For those of you who don't know, AIAA is a nonprofit organization run by volunteers who are passionate about aerospace. Volunteers do not get paid for their service. If you are interested in volunteering, please contact us. Volunteering includes helping events as well as coordinating with the speakers. We also have several board positions that are vacant. And we also help our volunteers in whatever they want to pursue, their job, their career, or pursuit of recognition. The COVID-19 has made all of us work from home. Many of my friends are going through job transitions. We read the news like 30% unemployment rate, probably one of the highest in long times. We just heard yesterday that Boeing has a 10% layoff. Boeing is one of the largest corporations in the aerospace industry. With the 10% loss, it will impact Los Angeles section. LA County has a large number of infected people. We have, as of yesterday, it is 8,430 people infected and 240 people died. So although we hear 15th May as a liftoff date of the lockdown, we prefer not to have in-person events for an extended period of time, as we care about well-being of our community who are at risk. Medical professionals are saying that the coronavirus will come back in fall. So it appears that an extended time before we can actually have regular in-person meetings. We are not sure of the future. Working from home and web meeting may become a new norm. In our work, they are discussing whether it's possible to just have a flexible work schedule where people work from home, those who can. So with that, I request all of you who are already helping to thank you for your help, and those who are not helping to come on board and help us out to help the community and keep AIAA going. Thanks, Kim.
Okay, Shekhar, do you want to introduce Michelle?
You can introduce this, fine.
Oh, okay. So our first speaker today is Michelle Rouch. She is a system engineer and also aerospace artist, very renowned. And she has long-term 30 years of engineering experience working with the Department of Defense. And she also served 20 years as lead system engineer in major weapon system, Raytheon missile systems. She grew up in Ohio, and she has been doing the aviation history, and she also alumnus with Wright State University, and she earned his first degree in electrical engineering and master degree in information system engineering from Western International University of Arizona. She is chair of AIAA in Tucson section, and she has earned first place for several years in AIAA Pre-College Outreach Award for Outstanding STEM K-12 Outreach Program, and she offered public speaking for her STEM activities. She is also a member of AIAA Society and Aerospace Technology Integration and Outreach Community. And she's also the founder or co-chair of the Tucson chapter of International Association of Astronomical Artists, IAAA, and also the American Society of Aviation Artists, ASAA, professional artist. She was also appointed Tucson Public Arts Council board member for District 4, and she was artist judge for Arizona Congressional District 2, and served for 4 consecutive years. And she was nominated for Arizona Governor's Arts Awards between 2014 and 2016, and still serve as the congressional advisor for Young Outreach Program for Boy Scout Troop 739. And she has a website, www.rouch.com, and you can see she's very active. From the start, you can see she's been everywhere, and into the museum and do the STEM education. She's very professional. And the bottom left, that it's a presentation in January with us in Los Angeles in the Downey Columbia Memorial Space Center with her famous art, The Final Flight. And also she was teaching, talking to the kids and teachers. So she's really, really very renowned, and also love teaching, love kids. That's what she was doing, the STEM education. So let's welcome Michelle for today's presentation.
Thank you very much. I thank you very much for this opportunity and reaching out to the public and having AIAA Los Angeles section giving this to the public. It's a great collaboration between multiple sections and having something for the public, and having this opportunity with Zoom, interconnecting everybody around the world. Now, what I wanted to share with you is that this presentation offers me a great mental break. Thank you for offering the bio. What I haven't shared with you too much, not only do you know that I work for Department of Defense, and it's probably one of the few organizations that are actually still paying their bills. And you can imagine we're trying to move forward, moving along, and paying the contractor, and people are adjusting what's happening with the schedule. What I haven't put in my bio is people don't know that I'm also you see that I'm quite busy. Well, I'm not busy enough, right? So I'm the current union president, and we're quite busy. And a lot of people, they think everybody's going to get personal protective gear, PPE, people call it. And what they don't realize is that OSHA doesn't have a clause that covers infectious diseases. And we're trying to figure out how to get that into law. You can imagine a lot of people are asking me for help. I give them opportunities of trying to figure out their financial situation, trying to demand for bargain. These are busy times, and and also reaching out to the members and telling them about latest CDC and DoD guidelines. Having this presentation and giving you information about aerospace art is a great mental escape. And I don't want to ignore what's happening in the world, but having this gives us to focus on other parts of life. We hear it every day on the news. So if you could go to the next slide. And this is just a real quick synopsis of the bio. And I really like the last statement. Besides being an artist, her day job consumes already 31 years of my life. So I love juggling, and I guess I do better if I'm in chaos. Chaos offers me balance. I don't know why. But if you could go to the next slide, thank you. So back in 2018, I know Al Worden and Francis French for many years, and they collaborated together to create a book. And it's this book. I'm going to bring it in front of you. It's called Falling to Earth, and probably it's reversed in the video. But it's a book that's titled by both Al Worden and Francis French. And Al Worden, he created this poem, and he was looking for an artist. And as you can tell with the list of things that I have in my bio, it's hard for me to say no, or I create more chaos. And they were looking for an artist. And I'm like, how about me? And so I love jumping into things that are unknown. And so I approached this project like a program manager. So in my day job, I measure everything in cost, schedule, and performance. And I do that same thing with my art. And I ask artists who are also engineers, such as Mark Pastana, Aldo Spadoni, and also Alan Bean. And there were several other artists that I met. Hank Caruso is another artist who combines his engineering with his art. And all of us come up with a program management approach in dealing with our art projects. And I want to share with you how Michelle's mind works. So we have artwork that I was creating. It's really like illustrations for the Al Worden Apollo astronauts, Apollo 15 astronauts next book. So the way I do it is I establish a level of requirements, and requirements, as you know, needs to be solidly understood to get to the end. So I found out that there was a total of 13 pages made for this book, and with that I quantified it to 13 pieces of artwork. And we embarked this in the beginning of 2019, and I was giving myself a schedule for 2019. The next thing, which is really important, the requirement for a publisher. You know yourself, if you're going to be designing something and you have one of the biggest constraints, it's not going to work. Whatever you do in life, like anything, it could be anything. So the publisher in this case has to be found very early up front. So I spoke with the publisher, and he was very much interested. And we're going to be signing a contract sometime soon. So I need to know what the dimensions for the book was. And you know, if you don't lock down the dimensions for the book, what happens? It's going to change. And I knew the dimensions was going to be one of the largest constraints. So like with any art project that I do, and I thank very much Raytheon Missile Systems for offering me the opportunity to learn about Agile. I was in this Scrum group, and it was selected people, and I was the only government employee among the contractor to design, create, and complete a car in one day. And you can imagine the complexity of that. So I was very fortunate to learn about Agile methodology in one short day, and I was able to adapt that through everything that I do now. Even, and I mean, even you can even do it with cleaning your house. But I can only Scrum. I'm only one person, so you have to figure out how do you work with only a team of one. And this is the way I did it. So you have to first confirm your concept design, and you always have a feedback with the customer and the publisher. You have to continuously work with them throughout the whole process, and not just get the requirements up front. All 13 designs, interestingly enough, were created concurrently. And that's not easy. You can imagine trying to clean your house all concurrently. But the thing is, with the Agile methodology, there is a mantra that says, get ugly early, or get the most complex thing done first. I was trying to approach that with my design, but I was running into some problems. But again, I'm only one person, me, myself, and I, 3 people in one. So I knew that I had to approach this very well, and I knew what the complexities were. So the third bullet says scalability and flexibility. I had an inkling down the road of creating these pieces of artwork that I needed to have a possible square. So not only do you work into a dimension of let's say a rectangle of 9 inches by 7 inches, but I wanted to make sure that I could have my design scalable. You can imagine your engineering designs, if it's flexible enough and not so rigid that it can't be flexible to create something. And then I also got continuous feedback. If I was creating something, I needed to make sure that they were involved and they liked what I was doing. And I had to risk base my design. And I had to measure the complexity of each one. And then with the complex designs, I had to do rapid prototyping, sometimes thumbnail sketches, throwaway prototypes, whatever it is, to get through the complex design. And that is an image of Al Worden to the side, and I just wanted to share that with you. Next slide, please. So there's many ways of dealing with Agile methodology, but I wanted to share how I went through this process. You go through a concept, design, prototype, you Scrum, deploy, and market release. We're not yet in market release, but we finished deploying it and all the information that I had to the publisher back in, it was starting in November timeframe. So concept, as you can see, that there's continuous work. Not only are you doing the Agile methodology, but you're literally doing all of it simultaneously. And you know that it isn't easy. Market release is a final part, and that's the goal. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So you have 9 pieces of artwork in here, and you can see that's it says page 1, page 2, and there's not page 3. Let's see, and then there's 4, 5, 9, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 13. So you know that there's 13 paintings, and they only see 9. I was able to create this literally in 4 months. There's a lot of information, a lot of work that has to be done, and I had quickly created the concepts. Some of them were photographs from Al, and because they gave me the flexibility, I said, are you okay that I make the moon not gray? And they said, yes, you do have that flexibility. They wanted to have it fun because this poem, and Al Worden had been a exceptional author on poetry. A lot of people don't realize how he was able to put words together, dancing on the cusp of all the Apollo missions. So this one is created for a children's book. So Francis French and Al Worden had created this this storyline, and they wanted to have the artwork more fun and playful. And I'm like, that's me. I break away from my day job, which is, you know, government surveillance on government contracts, which is fun, but my art is an escape. So I collected a lot of colors that I really love, and I chose these colors to have fun. And you can tell my moon is pink. And this gives me a great mental release. And if we could go to the next slide. So the next set of pieces of artwork, this was a very complex design. Yes, these were photographs that Al Worden offered, but I wanted to make them as realistic as possible from the photographs, and they were very time consuming. So the complexity is the detail. And even with the artwork in a scalable level of a 9x7, I wanted to offer an opportunity if the publisher wanted to make this rectangle, or to have not just a rectangular, let's say 9x9, but it covers the full page, and then you could have the text in white font. So you can see that the image may have to cover two pages if it would be opened up in full scale, let's say 18x9. So it gave the publisher flexibility to add this to their pages. So I don't know what the final look will be, but it gave them stuff to work with. And if they want to use a moonscape as a 9x9, they can. And I would recommend anybody who's doing any engineering design that it offers the liberty to go into different directions, whether it be a processor, whether it be not going to the margin of whatever, but having at least some type of margin so it can be something else that they can do. So you could go, please, to the next slide. So now we're going to the last two drawings. As you can see, some of it was created in 4 months, the other two pieces, and they were made concurrently. And people ask, well, how do you make artwork concurrently? Well, if you work in watercolor, one has to dry, and then you can go to the other one and work on it, and you can go back and forth, which is a wonderful way to work with multiple paintings at the same time. So this is the second to last painting that was created. And Al Worden, he was not always a very politically correct guy. So my title was not that politically correct, Al's Catwalk. And it was an image of him walking on the gantry. And I thought, yeah, you can put a nice formal Al walking on the gantry already too. I asked also a lot of Facebook friends what they would want to offer. But the first thing that came to my mind was Al's Catwalk, and there were people that really enjoyed that cheeky way to describe Al's walk. So, if you can go back, if you can look at the bullet that says page 3, on the walkway at the top of the enormous rocket, I gazed to the ocean. When I was working and scrumming with Al Worden and Francis French, and they offered that they would like something similar to how the famous walk of the Apollo 11 walking out, and also if I could include that with the gantry. I'm like, sure, I can do that. Oh, this was very difficult. So nearly 95% of the design that I created was from scratch. And there was very little material online. And I had to really pull a rabbit out of the hat. So in the next slide, you will see, and I'm going to walk you through some of the things that I had to work with. So here's page 3. The banner on the bottom is the wording that I had to work with. So the final design is right in the middle, sort of in the middle. It's in red. And the black and white photograph is Al Worden walking out. And you can see between the one shoulder and its shadowing, and also the tube, the oxygen tube with environmental suit, and how it connects, and on the long side of his leg in the black and white photograph. And you can do a one-to-one relationship, how much of that detail is available. And I tried to mimic that because that's all I had. That's all I had to work with. And I was so grateful to have the outline of his helmet. This was very important. And Al Worden was so happy to see his father on the side, and his father was waving to him, and I was glad to see that portion. And it's also on video, so you can see it over and over again, but it's granule. And I had to try to get as much information as possible to this painting. Now, there was only a few more photos that I was able to work with. And if you go from clockwise, one side of it, which is at the very far right side, you would see the environmental suitcase and the colors, and trying to get the detail, what's on his arm, and the position of his patch to the location of and you know it's not in the photograph, the location of the American flag, and how the tubes would be swinging. And you know what's really important with anything that is in movement, dynamic movement, you have to work with gravity. Gravity is very difficult to draw into any painting. So I had to make sure that there was the flow of Al Worden's shoulder, that the arm and the legs and the tubing for his environmental suit was kind of dancing, and there was a gravitational pull on it and interconnected to that suitcase. And also if I go further down, and of course we went and discussed the black and white photo, and going right where his helmet is on the very far left side, that was the only information that I had to figure out of the face of Al Worden. And I had to make sure that I did not get all that reflection, because there was very little reflection outside. And also there was no photos that I could find of the gantry, because I remember I was working with the clock, and I did a lot of rapid prototyping, trying to figure out what is on the gantry. And this is a lot of artistic license, and what he would be gazing at outside of the gantry. So this was very complex, and I was very happy to finish that. But this was not the most complex one. If you could go to the next one, please. This is the last drawing. It was called Spacewalk. So bouncing all those things around, I had all 13 paintings, even the last one, and I was able to show that to Al Worden in July. So you can see that there was a lot of work done between January to July, and showing him firsthand how it looked. And if there was the Apollo Apollo 11 50th anniversary in Huntsville, Alabama. And I shared with him all 13 pieces. He was reminiscing of the mission. We talked about also what was on his book, Falling to Earth, and seeing what was in front of him. He was remembering what he was experiencing in the spacewalk, what was in front of him, what was behind him. In front of him was the moon, and behind him was the Earth, and how he felt, and details and all recollection, and offering critique and also corrections. What happened was this: I was rushing through the last painting. I did not make a prototype. Prototype is very important in engineering, right? But so I wanted to go to immediately production. Don't do that. That wasn't a great experience. So because of the feedback that I got, as a result, I wanted to make sure that I recreated this bigger and better. Yes, I learned from a lot of things, but you can't go to production right away. If it's your last, you still have to make the prototype design. So if you could go to the next slide, and this is what I will offer the audience, is not only will you see the first painting, yeah, there was a lot of errors. I love that there was a lot of errors, and I learned from that. And here is the prototype on the far left. And there were a lot of details that Al Worden and Francis French offered. But there was a point in time where I needed immediate response, immediate information. So I scrummed with my space hipster Facebook friends, and they gave me details. And on the right, you will see the final painting. It is a large 30 by 23 inches. And you have the details of what Al Worden saw in front of him, which was Jim Irwin, and the large moon and reflection that you could see of the surface of the capsule. And you can see a reflection of Al Worden there. And then, of course, the bubble up paint, what happens when things get too hot. And I was very glad to make that. And this is my last slide. And anybody have any questions?
Anybody have a question, you can just speak up.
I think it's wonderful. I love that painting. I know. Now, has Francis seen this as well?
Yeah, Francis and Al Worden both saw it. Yeah.
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 Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I'm glad that is a really, really nice painting. I think you did a fantastic job.
Mhm. Michelle, you're the best.
Thank you. And because
I
the
repay you
only
because
image,
I love you.
Okay.
did someone have a question?
Yeah, I think someone has a question. Doug, go ahead.
Hi, Michelle. Can you hear me? It's Doug Stewart. Okay.
Doug?
You have a tremendous array of artistic styles. I'm thinking of your Astro Girls, for example, which I don't think you have a slide of that at the moment, but that's a very fun, colorful style. How did you, or who was the final arbiter of what your style would look like? Because this particular painting of Al outside in space is great, but it is very technical and it's very factually correct. Where is the artistic license, or who makes that final decision about what you're going to, exactly how you're going to paint?
Sometimes I don't even know what's going to happen until I gain that inspiration. The inspiration, I allow it to flow, depending if it is at what someone says, like on TV. There was on the news, they talked about the race for commercial to go into space. And I had to stop my cleaning the house. I'm like, they didn't just tell me that. So for 1 week, I was querying a lot of friends, Facebook friends, emails, everything. What is your commercial vision to go into space? And everybody gave me their input. So after the week, I allowed 1 week of exploration what that design would be, because I needed to make a painting. And what came about was Jeff Bezos surfing in space on his Blue Origin. So, and this is the Astro Girls, a crazy level of Astro Girls that came about, unfortunately, when I was furloughed by the U.S. government. There's a lot of humor in this, and I'm going to give you what's going on with this. The humor is this: the U.S. government does a great job in designing weapons, military weapons, vehicles, but they do a terrible job in training. So I saw a series of actually it happened when I was in the bathroom during furlough, and across from me when I was in the bathroom was this 1950s design of girls. And I said to these girls, because I was so upset being furloughed, I said, you guys need astronaut suits. So now I had a mission. I said goodbye to all my friends that were at the cafe, and I said, I'm out of here. So I bombarded my brain with McCall designs. McCall was is a company that created designs for women's clothing, and I know how to sew. So I bombarded my brain, and this is what happens. You create whimsical looking 1950s, and what was really famous in the 1950s was Marilyn Monroe. Now, if you take a look, and I mentioned to you that the government does a great job in designing weapons. We went to space, right? We went to space within a short period of time. So I knew these gals were going to be space, because that was best back then, especially all these women being very well known. And Helen Williams, the first African-American supermodel, and Fifi Sun, the first Chinese supermodel. And then we have Elizabeth Taylor and Marilyn Monroe. So these women, they were the height of their days and offering how women are. So if you can look at the weapons, and these weapons were to help, the person who helped me design it was my son. I said, he loves weapons. And I said, I need a space weapon. And he knew exactly how it should look. So I designed what was in his mind. If you can see that they're not necessarily holding it correctly, because the government, this is a very dark humor. I wanted to have some mental relief because I was still furloughed. The women held their weapons like purses because they did not know how to hold it. So you can see the clutched purse look, and they keep their hands open, really soft. No, they weren't holding it as weapons. And it was about a year until I created the artwork that finally Marilyn Monroe held her weapon correctly, because I was over it. So Doug, I get inspiration on strangest things, and this is what happens. It's therapy.
Okay, so all artists are not universally admired by their clients. What happens when you create something that you really like, but the client doesn't like it?
Thankfully, I have my day job to fall back on. That's okay. Someone's going to enjoy it, and it's usually if it's on contract, then we work together throughout the whole process, and to make sure that there is an opportunity for them to provide feedback. And there's with this design with watercolor, you literally have to start all over, like I shared with you with the Spacewalk.
Okay, thank you.
Great questions.
Okay. If no more questions, let's thank Michelle. Thank you so much. This is fantastic. This is amazing. Very beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so yeah, if you have any question, you can let us know. Then we'll forward to Michelle, and she'll be happy to answer your further questions.